Hi all, this is the analysis of Qantas Flight 32 mid-air explosion. 4th of November 2010, an Airbus 380 took off from Singapore bound for Sydney for the 469 passengers and crew. There were 5 pilots on board: captain, first officer, second officer, senior check captain, and check captain. Everything was routine. The airplane stabilized climb until 4 minutes after takeoff when engine number 2 exploded without warning. The captain immediately leveled the airplane, maintained the heading reflecting the aviate, navigate, communicate mantra that helps pilots to focus and prioritize. Then the captain contacted to the ATC requesting to remain within 30 miles in case of emergency landing. Once they got the airplane under control, the crew identified the threats which could offset flight safety. Debris from the engine explosion damaged various systems on the aircraft. None of the engine was operating normally. With fuel gushing out from a puncture, they've lost the spoilers, landing edge slats, and some of the system components. The electronic centralized aircraft monitoring system kept sending out the endless checklist with the alarm. During the initial seconds following the engine failure, the captain and his crew ignored the ECAMs and they focused instead on flying the aircraft. They managed the workload by prioritizing. At this point, the alarm bell was ringing continuously. They canceled it every time it came back. The crew considered this as threat which can cause cruise error, as distraction is a major challenge to crew performance. About an hour of airborne time, the crew went through the ECAMs one at a time, building a shared mental model of aircraft, and they planned the approach. Prior to landing, the captain decided to do the control check. Although this procedure is habitual for military aviators, it wasn't documented in any Airbus manual or the airline's manual until after this accident. However, the captain was aware that if hydraulics were lost, the flight controls could become saturated, and he considered this inadequate hydraulic power as threat which can cause to delay the control response or limit the control effects. This is the good example of a crucial decision making based on situational awareness. It was not one of the checklists he had to follow. Planning a landing was the part where it shows their collaborative problem solving skill the best. There were too many failures to diagnose and correct fully. So they stopped wondering about what failed and focused on what's working. Although both fuel computers failed and they didn't have reliable fuel information, with a good foundation knowledge of the system and the core layers of their technologies, they knew that they had now 2.5 hour fuel on board. And the crew monitored the engines and fuel situation every 5 minutes. Every 10 minutes, they re-evaluated whether to stay airborne and continue ECAM checklist or commit to and bracing themselves for an immediate landing. If they stay up too long, fuel leakages from the wings would take the aircraft further out of balance. If they land too quickly, they wouldn't know what the aircraft was capable of doing or how it would perform on landing. So they kept a shared mental model and situational awareness of what happened and what is happening to make a best decision. Meanwhile, the senior check captain performed the calculation of landing configuration. The captain was all time aware of the situations, and he was also well aware of the threats which might worsen the situation. During landing, when one of the pilots told him not to flare and accept hard touchdown because of limited runway, he decided to flare because with hard landing they might destroy the oleos, then slide down to the runway with sparks and leaking fuel. In an instant of time, the captain was able to recognize the threats and made a quick decision to avoid the threats. And he rather focused on the airplane to come to stop. When they finally landed, the captain had to make his final decision. He didn't evacuate the passengers right away. With the fuel pouring out on the ground near hot brakes, engines still not shut down even though they did stop from the cockpit. He recognized evacuation downsides would lose control of passengers, which can cause injuries. Not to mention his threat and error management skills, the captain has an outstanding leadership. He made several public announcements throughout the flight using Knight's checklist. This is to stop fear and panic of the passengers. I think this is why the passengers were able to follow the cabin crew's direction for 2 hours standby time in the airplane after landing. On ground, the captain gave passengers debriefs, answered their questions, and even gave his personal number to reassure the passengers. I think this is where we could see his great leadership. He took control in a crisis, got the facts out there, shut down the fears and rumors. In my opinion, this accident and cruise action taken is like a textbook procedure, what you have to keep in mind in case of emergency, especially when the situation is severe and procedures and checklists are not enough. In every stage, the crew prioritized and focused to adapt the ideal workload management. In every critical moment, the crew made a decision based on situational awareness and threat and error management. The captain was a great decision maker and a leader. The other crew and ground control were excellent supporters who provided collaborative, informed decision with open communication. The cabin crew were there to assist and control the passengers as they were trained. Overall, this is an example of how CRM practices can contribute to a positive outcome during a critical event in aviation. Thank you.